Maggie from the blog backtothelandliving.com, and today I'm here with my husband Eric, and we want to do a video for you guys about how we have gotten started with pigs. So this is our first year raising meat pigs, and they're behind us here, and we thought we'd do a video just showing you guys all that we've done to get started, so all the things we've bought and everything we've built and all the costs associated with that, in case you're interested in getting started with meat pigs. We're not going to share anything about butchering or the final cost because clearly these guys aren't to that point yet. So we're just going to share where we're at now, and then later on in the year we'll share how things go with those processes. So thanks so much for being here, and let's get into the video.
So the breed of pig we got, they're actually a crossbreed between the Berkshire and the Yorkshire. And they're mostly a white pig. They're kind of brown now, but they were like your classic pig when we got them. And the cost was about $100 each for piglet, and that varies from which farm you buy it from or what time of year you get the pig. And so we transported them in the back of our truck when we picked them up from the farmer that we knew who was getting pigs, and we just basically put our order in with him. And so we picked them up in a little crate. It's the crate I think his grandfather or great-grandfather made. And so it was an old pig crate, and we brought them home, put them in the barn, and that was our first night with the pigs. And now we've moved them out to their permanent shelter out here outside right now.
So like Eric said, we started in the barn, and the reason we started in the barn was because we weren't actually prepared for the pigs, which was our first mistake. We were thinking the pigs were going to be coming in June, but they actually came in May, and so we hadn't had this shelter and fence situation set up yet. So we just put them in the barn, and it was actually still pretty cool at nights, so we kept them in there, and it worked out fine. We just put them in one of the horses' stalls and had some sawdust for them, and they were happy in there for a while. And then we moved them out here into this fence about a week ago, would you say?
Yep. So the fence posts are cedar posts with a point on them, and they've been stripped of their bark. And then the fence boards are hemlock, and it's a 1x6. We got them from a local mill, and it was pretty inexpensive compared to hog panels, which is another option for pigs. And the wire here, we already had this wire on the farm, so therefore we didn't have to spend the money for it. And in total for this build, for the fence, it was only $130 roughly.
So the reason we chose to go with hemlock boards instead of cedar is because they're a lot cheaper. They're about $5 a board, whereas a cedar one would have been about $10 a board, but they're still weatherproof like cedar is. So we chose to go with that. And then the posts were $4.50 a post. And I think the wire was a sheep wire, so that's what we went with because we had it. And the reason we didn't do hog panels, one was we figured out it was going to be more expensive, but also our local farm store where we would get them from just didn't have them in, and we were waiting and waiting, and we just couldn't wait any longer because the pigs were getting too big, and we wanted to be able to bring them out before they got too large. So we decided to just make do with what we had, and we're actually really happy with how it turned out. It looks nice, and it should stand up for us for quite a few years to come. And then the other thing we have outside here for the pigs is the structure, so the building.
So we built that quite early before we actually had the pigs here because we wanted to get ready for them. And basically we just used materials that were around the farm, and so it cost us $0, which is great for me and Maggie. And it's just basically a four-sided building, open front, and then we put a metal roof on it just to keep the pigs out of the weather, and when it's hot they go in there, and it saves them from getting sunburned. So the dimensions were roughly 6 by 5 feet, I believe, and the height was about 4 feet at the front and went down to about 2 feet in the back.
And for the pig shelter, we built it on wheels. So we used these wheels because we had them, and they just attach to the back of the structure so we can roll it. So Eric and I can get in the front with a little wooden cart bar, and we get in and we can pull it together, and so we can move it over here, but also we can move it to what we plan to do in the future, which is put the pigs down in the woods. So we wanted to be able to move the structure with them as they move. So right now it's parked here by the fence, but we'll be able to move it ourselves down through the woods and down our trail to put them in the woods later on, so it can move with us. And so that's our plan, that after these pigs get a bit larger, we want to put them down in the woods. We're planning on building our off-grid cabin and having a bit of a field down there eventually. And so we're going to move the pigs down there. We're going to get electric fence going around it and be able to use them to help clear the land for us. And so that is our eventual plan with them. But the reason we're not putting them down there right now is because they're still quite small and we didn't want them that far from the house. It's quite a ways from the main property here into the woods, and we didn't feel comfortable leaving them down there overnight because we do have coyotes around and they're still pretty small, so we want to let them get a little bit bigger before we put them down in the woods.
So in the pig pen, there's like different areas because pigs are actually one of the cleaner animals. They only make manure basically in this corner here. And what we've been doing is we've just been putting some wood chips we had, and we just pile that on every so many days just to keep the smell down. But we don't actually clean out the pen. And so they will only make manure over in this corner, and then that corner by their water is where they do most of their rooting up. And so they'll kind of till up the soil with their snouts. And if we had some more water, which we will eventually, that would be like a mud pit. And so that's how they stay cool and keep the sun off them, and also just it kind of helps them because they don't sweat, right? So the popular method to water your pigs is the pig nipple. It's very popular, and so like everybody else, we wanted to acquire some, but because of the virus, we've had a really hard time getting things through the mail, as most people have. And so like Maggie said, we expected to get these pigs in June, and instead we got them in May right after Mother's Day, so we had to have them before we were fully ready for them. So we've just been watering them with a dish that we would have on the farm, same as we feed with our horses their grain. And so we just filled that with water, but it's not really ideal for pigs because they make a mess of their water because they like to wallow, and that's how they cool down. And so it really wasn't working good, but we were in a bind because we ordered some of these pig nipples and it was taking forever for them to come. So we've just been feeding them with a dish, but the nipples have in fact arrived.
So the pig nipples are just like this metal spout, and when the pigs put their mouth on it, it comes out, the water comes out kind of like a fountain. And so we ordered these off Amazon, and they were about $17. And we're going to be putting them into a blue barrel that we have, and we're going to fill that up with water, and then the pigs will be able to drink from the bottom of it. And that is so that they will not wallow when they're dished anymore, and hopefully keep it a lot cleaner, and we'll have to water them less.
So the main things you need for livestock are obviously food, water, and shelter. And so we already had shelter and water. So for the feed for pigs, we just go to our local farm store and we get the pre-mixed pig ration, and we get it in like a mash as opposed to a pellet. And it's just made up of different minerals, and it's mostly based with corn, really. And then other things are added in, like soybean and other stuff like that. And so we've been buying it by the bag, and it's about $17.30 a bag. Now, some people who raise more than 2 pigs will usually get a bigger weight, like a ton or half a ton, just to do them the season. But Maggie and I decided this year just to do it by the bag, and we'll keep track of how much we spend, and then possibly next year get a ton and compare the prices. And so we've just been feeding them 2 scoops in the morning and 2 scoops again in the evening, and that's what they're at right now, but that'll increase as they get bigger.
And we always mix the feed with water, so it comes as like a dry, it almost looks like bran, and we mix it with water so it's not dry for them and they don't choke on it, and we mix it up kind of like oatmeal and we feed it to them. And we've also been mixing in some table scraps, and we find that as they get older, they're starting to eat a little bit more, but at first they weren't really interested in the peels and the leftovers and things like that. But a friend of ours who we actually ordered the pigs with, he's told us that he finds that as they get older, they will start to eat more. So we're hoping to be able to feed them more scraps and things like that to supplement their feed as they get older. So since this is our first time having pigs, we came across a few challenges, so we thought we'd share those with you so that we possibly could avoid them and learn from our mistakes. So the first one was not being prepared for our pigs. So we did get them a little bit earlier than we thought, but we should have been prepared. So we got them when they were 4 weeks old, and we kept them in the barn for 4 weeks, and when they were about 8 weeks old, we brought them outside, and they've been outside for about a week now. And so next time, what we're hoping to do is just have them straight outdoors. So we're not going to put them inside, we're just going to have them straight outside, because we found the big problem was moving the pigs. So we did not have them trained to a collar, and they were not really into following us because they've never been outdoors before. So it was a big shock. They come outside and they're like, this is a brand new world. So we had a big challenge moving them. But what we ended up doing, having moved the pigs at 8 weeks, was we put a dog harness on them because a collar didn't work because their heads are tiny, so it slid right over. So we put one of our dog's harnesses on him, and Eric led the dog, Eric led the pig out with the dog harness on a lead line, and I went behind with just a board of wood behind them to kind of encourage them out. And so the first pig, our bigger pig, that went pretty well. Second pig was a little feisty and not so well. So this next year we're gonna avoid that mistake of trying to move the pigs and just put them straight outdoors initially so we can get them used to it and not have to move them. And that moves into our second mistake of overstressing our pigs. So the move for the pigs was kind of traumatizing. Which is horrible, but we tried, when we moved them, we tried to be as gentle as possible, but we still had to get them outside. There was no other option. They were too big for us to carry at this point because we had been waiting so long to get our fence up because we were waiting for the panels. So they were too big for us to carry out, and they did not want to do that. And so when we moved them out, we had to get the harness on and we had to bring them out, and they were under stress. And so once they got out here, they were fine, and for about 72 hours, they were doing good. But after a couple days, we noticed that our littlest pig, the one that really fought with us to get outside, was having troubles, and we thought we had killed her or done something wrong.
Thought she was dying.
Yeah, we thought it was like, oh no, we've been 2 months in, ruined the pigs, but not so the case. So she has this condition. It's called Dippity. It's a syndrome from pigs, and it's caused by stress. And what happens is the back end of the pig drops and they lose function in the back end, and she would squeal in pain, sounded like to us. Her back end would drop and she kind of drag herself around with her front end. So we thought we broke her back or something. Anyway, so we did a bit of research. This is a syndrome that happens in pigs, and it's fairly common when they're under high stress. That can be a change in food or a change in environment, so moving them outdoors, or like a sunburn, and they often get really red with this condition. We thought they were just sunburn, but we think now it's probably because of that condition that the little one had, the syndrome. And so next time we would avoid this by not moving them. We're hoping to put them out here to avoid that stress, and if we did move them, try to make it as a most relaxing situation as possible. So if this is something you come across, you haven't killed your pigs, they just need to relax. So what we did was we kept the dogs away from the pigs for the time, and we fed them Stress Aid. So Stress Aid is like an electrolyte for livestock, and so the person we got our chickens from this year recommended it for when we got our chicks to feed them when we moved them. So Eric thought that maybe this would help with this dippity situation. So we added that to the water, and within that day, really,
couple hours, really.
Yeah, we noticed it in the morning, and then in a few hours, she seemed to be getting a lot better. And so we think that really helped her. And so just letting her relax, and she was in the shade of the shelter, and it was actually a cool day, thankfully. And she's been completely recovered now, and there's nothing wrong with her anymore. And so if this happens to you, don't worry. It's not going to kill your pig, but it can be avoided by reducing stress. So that's our mistake, was having too much stress for the pig. So we will not do that next time.
So the next step for our pigs is to train them to electric wire. So this pen we have for them right now is only temporary. So what like Maggie said, we want to move them down into the woods to where we're building, and so they can till up the land for us, and eventually we'll have some more pasture down there. And so we'll train them to electric fence by basically running a wire low to the ground on the inside of the fence. And then as pigs root and dig around with their nose, they'll hit that wire, and it'll teach them basically not to go near it, right? Because it gives them a little shock. And so once we've trained them to that, we'll basically run wire out the door, down into the woods on either side, kind of creating like a lane for them. And we're hoping that they will just follow that down into the woods, and then we will wire off quite a big portion of our property, hopefully, and then they can basically free range until it's time to butcher them in the fall.
And so we'll also be bringing that shelter down with us and our water tank down with us, so they'll have a bit of shelter, even though they're in the woods, just so they can get away from anything and the rain and the elements. But that's where we're at now. Thank you so much for watching. The things that Eric mentioned that we're going to be doing, we'll film those the best we can and share videos with you so you can see the process. If you have any questions for us of anything we have done, let us know in the comments and we'll be sure to answer them. Thank you so much for being here. We hope that this has helped you, and if you decide to get pigs, this will help you out to avoid some of the mistakes we have and know how to be prepared for getting your first time pigs. So have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.